Well, we begin the night with some breaking news from the University of Oklahoma. Offensive coordinator Seth Littrell has been fired after 7 games as the coordinator of the Sooners. And so Oklahoma's not played good football, and Seth Littrell becomes the first casualty of a season that's gone terribly wrong. As we welcome you in to the show, I'm Brian Keating alongside Hannah Hoover. It is time for Crash
I was waiting for you to, throw that in there.
Do we have breaking news tonight?
It's a different day today.
It's a little bit different, and the feeling across the state of Oklahoma, whether you're an OU fan or an OSU fan, let's just say it is not enthusiastic.
It's an uncharacteristic year for the state of Oklahoma football.
Yeah.
Whether you're OU or OSU, it just has not gone either of their ways.
It has not gone as planned. There's no question about that. So let's start with the game that happened just down the street at Memorial Stadium, the University of Oklahoma at home against South Carolina. And before we even got settled on Saturday, this thing was pretty much over. And 3 turnovers in the first 9 plays of the football game. That was the first score for South Carolina. And then Michael Hawkins back in there. He only played 3 possessions because he turned it over 3 times in those 9 plays. The touchdown on the fumble, the touchdown on the interception. You've seen the rest. Jackson Arnold came in, had some ups, had some downs. The Sooners were sacked 9 times, which was a school record, and they lose 35-9.
What we put out there today as a football team is nothing remotely close to the standard here at the University of Oklahoma. Certainly not what we planned for today. And my job as the head coach is to evaluate everything and figure it out and find a way to put us in a better position to be successful. We're not doing anything to bring, enhancing the brand and the image and what this place has represented for such a long time.
So Oklahoma's in, they're in a tough spot for the first time in a long time. I'll give you the first chance at this thing. It's going bad at OU. The outlook, it just looks for all the world like it's about to get more difficult, and Seth Littrell was fired this afternoon.
That's right. I'm just going to start with that. Then Littrell took the blame on this one. This is a team that he inherited in some ways, recruiting-wise. He's only been here, 7 games, 8 games, and then he kind of takes the fall for this one. Someone had to, and so it was Seth Littrell in this scenario. I will go back to what Nick Saban said on the game day set. He said that Oklahoma is just not built like an SEC team, and Texas, they were built like an SEC team, and so for that matter, they're able to compete and do pretty well. We know they lost to Georgia, but at the end of the day, Oklahoma has more problems. I think over and over we've said, there's questions at quarterback. It's so much bigger than just questions at quarterback. When you have 9 sacks in a game, there's a lot of different elements to that. The line, the receivers, the quarterback. There's just a lot of elements of why you'd be getting 9 sacks in one game. So I think that's on display for all to see, and they just maybe didn't recruit for the SEC.
Look, there's a lot of problems, and you'd be having troubles if they were in the Big 12 or the ACC or the Big 10. This is a team that's not very good, and they've had a number of reasons why. Seth Littrell, you're right. I don't think firing Seth Littrell and firing coaches in the middle of the season, I don't think that necessarily makes you better, but OU fans wanted a scalp, and they got it today, and that was Seth Littrell. I would say this for the head coach. He came in 2.5 years ago, and his first team went 6-7, and OU fans were out there and they blamed the 6-7 on Lincoln Riley. They blamed Lincoln Riley for that 6-7 and the historic numbers dating back to the 1990s. And here you are now. They've had injuries. I get it. They've blamed the quarterback, but they've changed quarterbacks. Now they're changing a coordinator. And so at this point now, for the remainder of his tenure as the head coach at Oklahoma, we're out of excuses, man. It's time to start winning football games. Brent knows the deal. Brent knows what he inherited. He knows where he coaches. We are out of excuses for the reasons why Oklahoma can't win football games and why Oklahoma now consistently is embarrassed week in and week out. And look, Oklahoma at this point in time is the laughingstock of the Southeastern Conference. Let's just call a spade a spade. They're the laughingstock of the Southeastern Conference. And so, do you know when OU has won two, they've won 2 conference games since 1936. It's happened 3 times in the history of OU football, or since 1936, 1960, 1995, and 1997. They've got work to do to win 2. This is the team that Brent Venables has. He's out of excuses. It's not good enough. He said in his press conference yesterday, place the blame on me. I got to figure it out. And then he goes out and fires somebody else. So, look, I don't know what's going on in Oklahoma. It's not good enough. It's not nearly good enough. We've seen OU be one of the elite programs in college football. And right now, they are the laughingstock of the Southeastern Conference. And it's not good enough. And they have to get better. Brent knows that. But we are out of excuses. It is look at me time as the head coach, because that team's got to get better. And right now, they're not. And so I don't know what else to say. It's ugly, and I don't think they have problems they can solve this year. I think that's the deal. And this is, look at the bottom number. Hannah, they are a 3-touchdown underdog.
Right.
3 touchdowns at the University of Oklahoma against Ole Miss on Saturday.
Number 18 Ole Miss, yep. And with that said, you've got Jackson Dart, who's an excellent quarterback that you're facing.
Really good.
And I'm not saying that the OU defense isn't excellent, because they've had some really great moments, but against Texas, maybe that wasn't the case. So it's going to be interesting to see what shakes out. But I will say that this is time for Arnold. And, you have a question mark at quarterback really all season long. And you think to yourself, well, maybe you give, the young guy a shot. That's what they do. But I think at this point in the season, you want to see Jackson Arnold. What can he do? This was the quarterback that they recruited, they believed in, and they kind of gave up on after that Tennessee game.
Yep.
And then he comes when, things looked really bleak against South Carolina. 3 touchdowns by South Carolina's defense, setting them up in one way or another. And to me, it has to be Jackson Arnold on the Saturday. I don't think that means they win. I just think it means we get to evaluate who Jackson Arnold is.
Play Jackson, or play whichever one of the quarterbacks. I would play Jackson Arnold, but play whichever one of them for the rest of the season and find out what you got. Do I think Oklahoma can win the game? Of course I don't think Oklahoma can win the game. Brent Venables, as head coach, is 12-14 in conference games. Like, this is not a just this year problem. It showed up 2.5 years ago, and it's not good enough.
That's a good
It's
stat
just not good
to bring
enough,
up,
man. 12-14 in conference games.
And
They
there's
haven't been playing in the SEC forever. It's just, I don't know.
There's a lot of stats, a lot of numbers to look at that aren't positive for OU.
I know why they fired Seth Littrell, because someone has to take the fall, and OU fans demanded an answer, and someone has to be to blame. Somebody has to be to blame, but at some point, you got to look at the head coach, and we are to that point. We've blamed everybody else, and now it's on the head coach to make this thing better. I don't expect that to happen this year, but starting next year, that seat is fiery hot. Problem is, his buyout right now, just if you wanted to get, and I'm not saying they want to get rid of him, but his buyout is about $45 million. So they're stuck with him, and so he's got to figure it out. That's the only option for Oklahoma, is they have to figure it out, because he will be their head coach for now and the foreseeable future. And they got a tough one.
And Oklahoma is not familiar in this territory. These are uncharted waters, to say the least. This is not Oklahoma.
You have to be like 40 years old to remember back to when they weren't just awesome. And they're definitely not awesome now.
You're not old enough for that.
I remember when they weren't awesome, and it was like for this long, and then they've done it the rest of my life. There's no doubt about that. Stay with us. More to come. OSU played a close game and had a chance to win. Welcome back tonight. Brian Keating, Hannah Hoover. Let's go right to the video, because Oklahoma State was on the road, a game they did not win as well. This was a great football game on Friday night. Cowboys had to rally down late, and it looked like this was going to be the game winner to Brennan Presley, and would have been a heck of a win against the team that was ranked 13th in the country. The problem is the Oklahoma State defense has struggled, and they don't tackle well, and at the end of the game, it all showed up.
Right there.
That's the game winner. BYU wins 38-35.
Our guys played really well today, or tonight, I guess I should say. Very proud of them. Had a chance to win. Wish we'd have got the stop at the end.
Mike, how's Garrett doing?
He's out.
For the season?
I don't know, but he'll be out a while.
So that is Mike Gundy after the game against BYU. He's talking about Garrett Rango, who started at quarterback. I thought played pretty dadgum well, and disappointed for him
So sad
to be
for him.
banged up. And we don't know what the injury and how long, but it just seems like it's going to be it's going to be a little while for OSU, who gave themselves a chance to win on Friday night.
Yeah, he gave them a fighting chance, had 77 yards rushing, which really got
Yeah.
this BYU
Yeah.
defense off their game. It was impressive to see what the Pokes could do. I will say, you cannot count the Cowboys out because this is Mike Gundy's team, and I will say that they are like a wounded dog in the corner that just keeps fighting. They are not winning. We know that. They lost, but 38-35 is a competitive game, and I will say, if you look at the rankings, they might be at the bottom of the Big 12, and you may think, look at their schedule. You've got Baylor, Arizona State, TCU, Texas Tech, Colorado. None of those are going to be easy wins, but they're going to keep fighting, and I think that, you have Alan Bowman, who is, again, getting another life, if you will, at quarterback, and, he had some moments that were not so great, then some that were decent. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to this team is not going to give up, and they're a little bit, like that angry dog in the corner.
No, I think that's a good comparison. I think you're right. That schedule, like none of those are easy. You don't look at them and say we're going to win them, but they're not all. None of them are just guaranteed losses either. And so,
right.
Look, if they play the way they did on Friday night, I think they've got a chance to win multiple football games. I don't know if they can win 3. Can they go 3-2 and make a bowl game? I don't know about that, but they had an identity, man. They ran the football, ran it
Definitely.
well. That was their identity. 7.3 yards a rush.
Ollie
Gordon was back, and so he played well. That was their identity, and that's just what you hope to see. Here's what's coming up for OSU. They are on the road against Baylor on Saturday. Again, not easy, but winnable. They're an underdog, but what do you think about OSU going to Waco?
Okay, on the schedule, when I saw this, I thought, okay, they've got Baylor, right? I mean, at the beginning of the season, why wouldn't they? I will say now this is not a layup game,
Nope.
especially after, let's see, they beat Tech 59-25 or 59-35 in Lubbock. So with that said, I just think, the Cowboys will have a fighting chance. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
But this is not a game you take lightly. And their quarterback, Sawyer Robertson, he had 5 touchdowns against Tech.
Tough game. They're all tough for OSU at this point. They've gone to a bowl game 18 straight years. I'm not sure they can get to 19, but if they don't win on Saturday, I think they'll have a hard time getting to 19. 18 straight bowl win or bowl years for OSU, and they're going to have to start winning. They got to go 3-2 to finish it out. Stay with us. One more thing's next. Get a little good juju here on this show tonight.
Yes, we do.
UCO's really good at football, and they win again. And they beat Northeastern State in a game that is the final. Heck of a game, heck of a shootout, heck of an offense, and that's a trophy game there at UCO, and they're bringing it home. So I think that's
Cup. There it
that's
is.
very cool. So congratulations on a great season. That just keeps rolling on. And coming up this week, you know what we're going to have? We're going to have Thunder Hoops for real, Hannah.
Finally, it's time. I'm ready for it.
Me too. Chet Holmgren and Shea, and find out about Dub. See, he got banged up in the preseason game, but I cannot wait. They were the #1 seed in the West last year. You're going to do that again, right?
Hey, I'm ready for it. I'll
With the way
bet on
football's
that.
gone, let's parade on Reno. See ya.